So the news for me today, wow, eye-opening. Mitt Romney will meet with the boss, President-elect Donald Trump, over the weekend. What's that all about?
Well, Donald Trump does what businessmen do. He takes the counsel of allies, rivals, people from across the aisle, never-Trumpers in this case, and frankly, in the case of Governor Romney, somebody who did a good job in his state of Massachusetts as governor, ran for president twice, and has a lot to add to the conversation. So I count about 8 meetings that I know of for that same day in New Jersey on Saturday, and Governor Romney will be one of them. And I know Mr. Trump is delighted to welcome him here.
Welcome him in what capacity? Is it interviewing for a job? I mean, the Secretary of State has been floated, but is it to just download him on what's going on, Romney, or to actually interview him for a possible appointment?
Well, that conversation is between the two of them, Eric. I will tell you that not every conversation Mr. Trump is having this week as the president-elect is going to lead to a cabinet position or is going to lead to a senior strategy role. He is a man who listens and who learns, and one listens and learns from him as well. So it's always a two-way street. But as president-elect, he knows it's incumbent upon him to take meetings with any number of people over the phone and in person, from world leaders to sitting legislators and opinion leaders to those, like in the case of Governor Romney, have been through the political fire before, represented the party as its nominee last time around, didn't make it, of course, and to really talk about what they've learned together about America, what the party represents, what the country is asking for in terms of leadership. Mitt Romney's a job creator. He's an American success story. He knows a lot about the world. Many things that Mitt Romney talked about in his 2012 election with respect to the world stage have come true. And I anticipate, a meeting of the minds and of two equal partners in terms of those who love their country and want to make sure we have a peaceful and democratic transition into the next administration. And we know that Governor Romney can add to that conversation.
All right, well, let's move on to President Obama. Earlier today, he was in Berlin, and he addressed the situation with Russia, how Vladimir Putin would work with your boss, the president-elect Donald Trump. Had some interesting comments. Take a listen.
My hope is that the president-elect coming in takes a similarly constructive approach, finding areas where we can cooperate with Russia, where our values and interests align, but that the president-elect also is willing to stand up to Russia where they are deviating from our values and international norms.
Kelly, how do you take that? I mean, on one hand, it seemed like he was extending the olive branch, and then on the other hand, he said, you better learn how to push back against Putin. Is that a positive or negative from the president?
That seems fair, and look, that seems fair and reasonable from President Obama. I don't think that was, hashtag breaking news necessarily. But what I do think, Eric, is that it cuts right to the heart of what many in the media have been saying about Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, that somehow they're friends and intimates, and Donald Trump's going to work with Vladimir Putin. You just heard President Obama say, find constructive ways to work with Russia when it is in America's best interest, and find ways to push back when it's not. That's what Donald Trump has been saying on the campaign trail all along. And I appreciate President Obama saying that tonight. I also appreciate, frankly, the support that he and Vice President Biden and their spouses have given to the Trumps and the Pences in this last week, because, as recently as yesterday, Vice President Biden said, let's be fair. It takes a while to form a government. We weren't ready on day one of transition. They weren't ready on day one of transition, but that he's, quote, confident that the country will be ready, and Trump and Pence will be ready on day one when they're sworn in. And I think this is the president saying that he hopes the next president at least tries to find a balance in our relationships with Russia.
So let's stay on Russia just for a minute here. How will the U.S. relationship with Russia evolve under President Trump? Where we were before, in fact, President Obama said Russia was our greatest foe, one of our greatest enemies. Will that change, and how will it change, and why will it change?
Well, but today it sounded like President Obama was at least giving advice to his successor, President-elect Trump, to find ways to work with Russia when appropriate. Let's say that Russia wants to join together with the U.S. To really push back on ISIS, on radical Islamic terrorism, which Hillary Clinton describes as our determined enemies, but most Americans recognize as a bunch of savage murderers who do their bloodletting here in places like Orlando and San Bernardino, and certainly abroad in places like Belgium and Paris and Nice. And so What I think President Obama is also signaling is that he knows Donald Trump, as the president and commander-in-chief, is going to do things perhaps a little bit differently. You're asking how the relationship will be different. That depends an awful lot on Russia also, and not just President Trump. Why? Because President Trump made very clear in his victory speech 8 days ago, Eric, that he's telling the world community, I will always put America first, but I will be fair and I will work with you and listen to you. But he's made very clear from the beginning that part of the Trump doctrine is America first, and he's told the world community that's an open door. But don't be fooled as to these trade deals are going to be renegotiated, jobs are going to come back, and U.S. interests, allies, and Americans themselves are going to be put first.
All right. Kellyanne, also Ted Cruz earlier today made some comments, some fairly provocative comments. Take a listen to these.
We got to deliver. I mean, it is time to put up or shut up. If Republicans go to Washington and we don't deliver on what we promised, I think we'll be looking at pitchforks and torches in the street, and quite rightly. And that can't happen.
So here's where we stand. We have a president that's going to come in. He'll have the House. He'll have the Senate. He'll have 62% of the states will be Republican governors as well. Ted Cruz says we need, as a Republican party, need to put up or shut up. Is that undue pressure? I mean, here the people have spoken.
No. No, this is what the people want. That's not undue pressure. The time for divided government is over. This country put a Republican House, Senate, and President into Washington, a majority of Republican governors for support, the vast majority of Republican-controlled state legislatures. And so they're sending a message that they want things to happen. And in the case of Senator Cruz, who came in second in the primaries behind Donald Trump, the two of them together had a very anti-Washington, anti-establishment, solve problems, fix things, get things done message together. And so Ted Cruz, who put himself out there 3 years ago or so on Obamacare, stood up and did his famous filibuster to try to stop Obamacare from meeting its funding. He's been vindicated. The country has rejected the Affordable Care Act as untenable for many Americans, as increasing their premiums, decreasing their quality and choice and their access. And now we have an opportunity through President-elect Trump to actually do what he promised to do, repeal and replace Obamacare. Replace it with what, people ask? Okay, let's review. Replace it with health savings accounts so that you have a private account in your name. It bears interest. It allows you to control the spending on your health care, your preventive care, and then your medical needs. Secondly, we're going to block grant Medicaid to the states. Take that out of Washington and put it in the states where people there who are in charge, Eric, can assess the needs of its people. Thirdly, allow you and me to purchase health insurance across state lines, much the way you and I buy all of our products and services. Sure. And so, of course, eliminate the Obamacare penalty that tells Americans either buy the government-run health insurance or pay a penalty. And so there are specific things that can be done. Senator Cruz is absolutely right, and I think all those Republicans who ran on these promises need to deliver.
Can Senator Ted Cruz, can he get nominated? Can he get the nomination after he gets nominated? Can he after the vetting? You know, the Senator Rand Paul said some of the choices, he may filibuster some of the choices. Ted Cruz has not been the most popular senator on the Senate floor. Will he have a problem getting confirmed?
Confirmed if he's nominated for something?
Sure, yeah.
In the cabinet?
Yeah, that is a lot. What a lot of Republicans are saying, you know, he's had such a cantankerous relationship with even Republicans on the Senate floor. Is this something, would you put someone in a position where he may have trouble getting confirmed?
Well, first, he's not been appointed or nominated for anything at this moment. But to answer your question, there is something called senatorial courtesy. And often you see, Eric, in these processes that Republicans and Democrats lay down their partisan their partisan armor, and they come together and they say, I'm going to go and vote for someone I've served with in the Senate. But it really depends on the position, and that's a hypothetical at this point since he hasn't been nominated or appointed for anything. But I think I think Senator Cruz in a Republican-controlled Senate is a very important voice and has shown his courage in pushing through issues when others are crying, divided government, we can't do that, we have a Democratic president. Okay, he's absolutely right, and we're going to rely upon Senator Cruz to be a very strong voice. We're very happy he visited President-elect Trump here at the Tower on Tuesday. It was a great meeting.
Kellyanne Conway, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you, Eric.
The Trump.
더머니 Sono convinto che Trump sia un leader in cui possiamo avere molta fiducia. L'endorsement al presidente eletto degli Stati Uniti Donald Trump arriva dal primo ministro giapponese Shinzo Abe dopo l'incontro, il primo per Trump con un leader internazionale, avvenuto all'interno della Trump Tower a New York. I due si sono visti per circa un'ora e mezza parlando dei principali temi legati alla collaborazione dei due stati. Abe alla fine dell'incontro ha detto di avere molta fiducia in Donald Trump, parlando di un'atmosfera calorosa. Abbiamo discusso di vari argomenti, ha spiegato Abe senza scendere in dettagli. Ci rivedremo ancora per riprendere tutte le questioni con maggiore accuratezza. Per Abe, ovviamente, la preoccupazione più grande è quella di perdere la protezione americana in Asia, dando così più spazio al pericolo Corea del Nord e magari all'avanzata economica della Cina. Nei mesi passati Trump ha ripetuto più volte di essere intenzionato a ritirare le truppe americane dal Giappone e dalla Corea del Sud, ancora una volta per mostrare ai cittadini americani la sua intenzione di chiudere le frontiere e usare tutte le risorse dello Stato all'interno. Il miliardario inoltre ha sostenuto che il Giappone, paese formalmente pacifista, dovrebbe avere una bomba atomica come deterrente nella regione. Ma per il Giappone il problema non è solo militare. Il paese ha infatti un interesse importante nell'area di libero scambio stabilito dal TPP, la Trans-Pacific Partnership, che Donald Trump ha promesso di far naufragare. Abbattere le tariffe doganali farebbe aumentare le esportazioni giapponesi verso gli Stati Uniti, dando sollievo all'economia stagnante a causa del costante invecchiamento della popolazione. Senza fiducia tra le nostre nazioni, ha concluso in ogni caso il premier nipponico, la nostra alleanza non potrebbe funzionare. Ho rinnovato la mia convinzione che con Trump potremo stabilire un rapporto di collaborazione. Nel frattempo, Trump e il suo staff continuano a lavorare alla squadra di governo. Il presidente eletto avrebbe offerto la posizione di consigliere per la sicurezza nazionale al generale Michael Flynn, ex membro della comunità dell'intelligence americana. Flynn ha da sempre sostenuto che l'islamismo militante ponga un pericolo su scala globale.